Hey, this is Notser, and today we're taking a look at the Vladivostok. This is a Tier 8 Soviet battleship, and this is an 8.9, where the Sigma was nerfed from 1.7 to 1.6, which, if you are familiar with Sigma, it governs the consistency of the shell to land near the center reticle, wherever you aim. Obviously, this is a number that has meaning, but has a different meaning based on the type of accuracy model that they choose to use. So, point 0.1 off of the Vladivostok's previous accuracy might end up influencing 10 shells in 1,000. 20 shells in 2,000. It's a really small, subtle change that is very hard to gauge without just volumes of games. So I'm not really the one to say definitively, this did nothing to make this ship weaker or stronger or whatever. It's not something that really has that kind of quality. It's a super subtle change that is really only measurable on a spreadsheet. And, I don't necessarily think that the Vladivostok of all the Soviet battleships outside the Kremlin necessarily deserve to be nerfed. The Vladivostok participated in clan battles and also in rank sprint whenever we had the Tier 8, and it wasn't the most powerful ship, it was just the de facto one because of the way it could play. The strength of the Soviet battleships to mitigate damage, actually like a battleship. Yeah, that's the part where they are so much better than everything else. It's kind of unbelievable. So I'm not looking at the Vladivostok and going, wow, this is a major nerf to the way I want to play. I mean, this is turning an overpowered ship into a balanced ship. This is turning a normal ship into a nerf ship. I don't think it makes much of a difference, honestly. The Sigma is something that is noticeable in game, but the way you play Soviet battleships, kind of brawly, up near an objective, you want to get close so that your unique Soviet accuracy takes over. And with unique Soviet accuracy, doesn't matter how inconsistent you are. If you're at point blank range or within 10 of a target, you're gonna feel that accuracy far more than any slight Sigma adjustment. And as far as I'm playing the Vladivostok in this game, that was a nice accurate shot on the Alaska as he's broadside. But did I get all of those shells because of the Sigma, or did it influence it at all? I can't say, right? We got 23,000, felt pretty effective. Overall, I don't necessarily feel like I'm missing out on anything that I've had previously. Certainly don't feel that. Certainly don't feel that. Just wiped out that Mogami. This guy was coming around the corner, and I knew him. He was like, I can't stop. And his downfall was, of course, he couldn't stop. Completely revealed my position, and we took him out. So far, pretty good. Still punchy, still tanky. I mean, this is why the Soviets are good. Not because of their crazy accuracy. I think the Kremlin at range, we could have a discussion. It's because they just take so much damage. It takes a long time to kill a Soviet battleship, whereas it might take a lot less time. And this nice accuracy when close to a target is a win-win, especially against a DD. So I'm doing exactly what I'm hoping to try and do. I'm trying to give the players on the enemy team something to shoot, and we're trying to contest the caps so that we have an advantage. So far, the guns, they're holding up. I haven't found a situation yet that I felt like I missed that shot directly because of the nerf. It's just not something I'm really noticing. Just not something I'm noticing at all. I just feel very comfortable with this playstyle because the entire Soviet line pretty much plays like this. So clearly we took out the DD, which was a big gain, and we also got pretty lucky because it was so clean. The torpedoes, we were able to angle against it, and I'm just trying to look at this Moskva and go, broadside. He's angling back a little bit. We might be able to get a citadel, but I elevate my gun, hoping that we are successful, and we do okay. Unfortunately, one of the two pins actually hits the gun, so it's absorbed by the gun's health. It's the way of things sometimes, but you know, the Sigma consistency over range, that's where you should definitely notice it. Near the back half, it's going to feel more and more like a shotgun. More and more like the German battleships. If you're capable of moving closer to the target, you're going to probably not notice as much the Sigma change. But back here at, you know, 15, 14 kilometers to 18, you know, you probably will notice it. It's just going to have more time to get to the target and less time to stay accurate. But we're still capable of doing our job so far. Now, I backed up here because I felt like this DD over here is threatening. There's also a couple ships that are moving up on this southwest side. I want to try and, you know, wait until the Frenchie has committed to an angle, and just as he's angling away, the turn away, I fire, knowing that that's the most vulnerable state for him. And once again, very accurate. Like, these are all accurate shots. They all work very well. I don't think that they would not work very well in 8.8. I think they would work exactly the same. And clearly this is 8.9. This is the worst version of the Vladivostok between the two, and it's working just fine. Unfortunately for Rutan, he got radared, and there's nothing he could do. Nothing to save him. No one to stop. Yep, that Alaska over there. I wish I could fire on him, but I can't. And we got this enemy Republic moving forward. Now, he is almost in the range that I would really like to engage him, if I'm being honest. But he's not really angled that well. And I don't really know if he's moving forward or if he's stationary or slightly moving back. Like, he's right on the edge of being indiscernible. And we unfortunately missed the placement because he did indeed come forward and angle slightly different. But I'm backing up primarily to get some health. I've weathered 1.5 million potential damage fired at me. I would like to weather another 1.5. In order to do that, I gotta get health. And I'm just like, focus, fire. This is not a game we should be losing. And yet, we are very close to losing it. We just need to keep focusing the right targets. And, ooh, Smolensk. Now, we did not a very good damaging shot there. 3 penetration against the Republic. But the Smolensk did grab my attention. And we are almost in position. We get 2 overpens. Nice on the Smolensk. Of course, it's a Smolensk overpen. Every single time a shell makes contact with a Smolensk, it chooses whether it wants to overpen or Citadel. There's nothing in between. So 98% are overpens. It's a very frustrating ship to try and kill. But this enemy Republic, the one that we were working on, he did indeed take good damage. And I'm just trying to get him around that corner. Make sure that the shells can dive down and do damage to him. They can't. They can't. He's just too close to it. And I don't have another target to fire on. We're going to lose the friendly Republic. Unfortunate, but expected. While that's going on, though, we've kind of normalized the kills just before that. And we still have 2 bases to the enemy. Friendly Smolensk finished off the Republic. I'm moving up to try and pick on the enemy Smolensk. And the strategy that I chose, I was like, oh, well, we're going to have him in the smoke or otherwise. Not really. You know, he is now outside of his smoke, able to fire on me. I really would love to catch him completely in the open, but I don't think he's going to do that. I'm hoping he does, but there's 2 types of Smolensk players. Scary players and then derpy players that they still do good damage, but they just don't get it. You know, they don't know every nuance of the ship so that they can take advantage of it. This Smolensk player, he knows what he's doing. And I'm being radared, of course, by the enemy Alaska. And oh, if we would have kept going, we probably would have taken a torpedo or 2. But we were able to stop and reverse in time. But he's not coming through this threshold. And the enemy Alaska's skill down. And I'm going, okay, he's not going to come out. He's obviously going to hide. And we need to try and get a kill maybe on the Alaska. This Lion is shaping up to try and maybe push this area or push the other area. And I really need to try and back up and help my teammates. You know, I come to that realization but I can only go so far and so fast. It's not going to be the best situation, but it needs to happen because the Alaska can see my friendly Baltimore, and there's really nothing I can do in this position. It just feels, it feels like, if this player would have just kept going, maybe I get the Smolensk kill, then I could transition even more aggressively around. As it stands, since the Smolensk is in that position, it's kind of frustrating. We, of course, get 2 penetrations, and then overpens. He verifies that I did indeed take a shot. He takes a free shot. Of course, he gets a fire. And of course, I get to decide, do I just want to burn, or do I want to put it out? And, it's like, well, we're doing a good job. We've got a ship advantage. We might get 2. I certainly hope so. Teammates do take him out. And the Smolensk/Lion, they're there. I'm very vulnerable, though, to getting pinched. Both sides are very vulnerable. We've got our friendly Balti. He's able to use radar, and the Lion's going. Smolensk is right in front of me, so we're just going to take the shot right at his nose, hoping for accurate shots. And we get only 2. The rest sort of dunk in and out, and it's just not enough. Not enough. He's going to have a chance to use torpedoes, and oop. That was an unfortunate ricochet, and we know what's going on here. We're definitely going to die to torpedoes. Definitely going to die. Maybe with the other Sigma, a shell or 2 would have gone closer to the Citadel and killed him. I don't think that was the difference. I think the difference was just I got unfortunately unlucky. Team's doing a good job, though. We got 3 bases to their 1, and even if we lose a friendly, which we look like we're going to lose Alaska, just because he's so low, so close to them, we should be able to win the game. I got some pretty good long-range shots, short-range shots. The consistency felt familiar. Yeah, there he goes, of course, the Balti. Of course, HE salvo, whatever remaining 6,000, he's gone. But yeah, the accuracy of the Vladivostok, it felt very familiar. I couldn't personally perceive the Sigma change in a way that would guarantee that this indeed happened. It's just too subtle. And just playing through it, it still has the same strengths, still has the same weaknesses, and that means that it's going to be very good in the current design of the game. So I wouldn't worry at all if I was a Vladivostok player. It still has huge health, great armor. It still has all the Soviet qualities that you love. It looks great too, and obviously has a beautiful skin, which would make anyone envious if they actually like that stuff. So I don't really have anything else to say about the Vladivostok. The patch itself, 8.9, seems to function very well for me. I initially heard some people were dealing with a crash. Not on my end. I have an Intel NVIDIA box, but I also have a AMD NVIDIA box too, and they didn't seem to want to crash. There was nothing related to that. The Italian event went live. You could possibly earn a early access Italian. I've played some of the Kremlin. The Kremlin received a AP nerf, obviously, 15,500 to 14,500. The HE change is minimal. The AP change just means that you won't have comparable heavy broadside AP to something like the Ohio or the Yamato or the Thunderer. Those ships, maybe the Thunderer is matching the Soviets. The Ohio and the Yamato will have a heavier broad. So the idea is that the Kremlin received not an accuracy nerf, but a damage per minute nerf and a overall alpha nerf. But playing through it, the same strengths are still valid for all the Soviet battleships. They just mitigate damage far better than pretty much any other battleship line in the game. And they work very well. Defending themselves, their damage control, their turret traverse makes sure that the playability is always, very, very user-friendly. That's still totally true for the Vladivostok, still totally true for the Kremlin. I'm curious in my mind, I was thinking before I recorded this, was like, well, they could be trying two different nerfs, and they might apply them across all of the Soviet battleships, either an accuracy nerf or an alpha nerf. And by playing both of them, maybe they come to a conclusion one way or the other, or, if they deliberately see only the Kremlin and the Vladivostok as the two Soviet battleships that have an issue, then there's that, right? I've played both the Kremlin and the Vladivostok, both in 8.9. I don't really notice the AP nerfs quite as much as I notice the Sigma. I think the Sigma at max range is very noticeable. It feels very German, and it's very inaccurate because of that. But at medium to close range, there's very little change made to the Vladivostok, and maybe that's the idea. I've always expected that they would bring the Sigma down on these battleships so that they are absolutely almost mandatory that they need to push forward. That's the only way that they get to use their armor effectively. If they just stay in the back and tank for an eternity, they're not going to harm anyone, but it's not going to be compelling gameplay. They really want to push you forward, and I get that. I like that. I just don't know that the AP nerf on the Kremlin changes their gameplay at all. They are still incredibly dominant at multiple phases of the game. They have wonderful AA. Armor's fantastic. Health pool, immune to basically ramming, which is a huge deal in competitive. Rams happen a lot, and battleships have to have a certain amount of hit points in order to protect themselves from a possible ram. Because the Kremlin has great torpedo protection, great health, great armor, it really doesn't have a weakness with regard to how much tankability it has. I don't know that the damage per minute is a noticeable weakness. I definitely think that inconsistency over range is a deserved trait for a ship line that is so tanky at range that most players don't try to fire on it all that frequently, but they didn't choose to go in that direction with the Kremlin. So I'm just confused on which one is the real one and which one is going to be noticeable in 3 months when players are going, these ships are still really good and overperforming at certain tasks in the game. And I love the fact that they're great at tanking. I want the German battleships to be just as tanky. I also want all the other battleships to receive some tanky love. I feel like the French battleships suffer so much from the 32mm all the way around. But the Vladivostok change, it's there. If you play the Vladivostok to its strengths, you're probably not going to notice it too much. If you are trying to play the Vladivostok closer to other battleship designs in the game, you might notice the Sigma nerf more. That is my personal feeling on it, and I think that's a fair assessment of it. Play to your strengths, and you're going to minimize those weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses is inaccuracy over range. Big shocker there. Hopefully you guys enjoy the game either way, though. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, you can click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World of Warship videos, first impression, how-to, news, and review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.